In the world of modern warfare, few weapons have captured the imagination and fear of nations quite like the Kinzhal hypersonic missile. It was introduced to the world not in a classified report or a quiet military briefing, but in a televised address by Russian President Vladimir Putin in March of 2018. He spoke of a weapon that moved at 10 times the speed of sound, a missile so advanced that it could overcome all existing and prospective missile defense systems. The name itself, Kinzhal, translates to dagger, and for years it was presented as the ultimate dagger aimed at the heart of any adversary. This was more than a technical demonstration, it was a powerful piece of psychological warfare. The message was clear and chilling. Russia had developed a weapon that rendered modern air defenses obsolete. The very notion of a hypersonic missile, one that could travel a significant portion of its trajectory at speeds exceeding Mach 5, created an aura of invincibility. Its sheer speed meant that an enemy would have precious little time to detect the incoming threat, let alone formulate a plan for interception. Furthermore, its ability to maneuver in flight was said to be so sophisticated that it could evade any countermeasure. For years, this was the narrative that dominated defense circles and international news. The Kinzhal was not just a weapon, it was a symbol of technological dominance, a myth built on the promise of overwhelming power. The missile itself is an air-launched ballistic missile, a variant of the ground-launched Iskander. This detail, though seemingly minor, would later become the key to understanding its fundamental weakness. It is launched from a specially modified MiG-31K interceptor, or a Tu-22 M3 bomber. The launch from a high-altitude aircraft gives it a significant initial velocity and range advantage, allowing it to strike targets from a distance of up to 2,000 kilometers. Its powerful solid-fuel rocket engine propels it to extreme speeds, and its trajectory is largely ballistic, meaning it follows a predictable arc through the atmosphere before descending on its target at immense velocity. This combination of speed, range, and the terrifying promise of its hypersonic nature made it a truly fearsome weapon on paper. It was designed to hit high-value static targets, such as command centers, hardened bunkers, and aircraft carriers, delivering either a conventional or a low-yield nuclear warhead with devastating effect. The first confirmed combat use of the Kinzhal came in the early days of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. On March 18, 2022, a Kinzhal missile was launched at a large underground weapons and ammunition depot in Diliatin, a village in western Ukraine. The strike was a clear statement. Russia was not holding back its most advanced weapons. This single event sent shockwaves through the global military establishment. The attack confirmed that the Kinzhal was no longer a theoretical threat. It was a reality on the battlefield. Analysts and military planners scrambled to reassess their own air defense capabilities, confronting the very real possibility that their systems, from the American-made Patriot to the French SAMP-T, might be useless against this new class of weapon. For the next year, the Kinzhal was used intermittently, each strike serving to reinforce the perception of its mythical power. The strikes were not just about hitting a military target, they were about instilling fear and demonstrating a technological gap that Ukraine and its allies could not bridge. Every air raid siren, every news report of a missile launch from a MiG-31K carried the implicit threat of the unstoppable dagger. It was a constant psychological pressure, a narrative that suggested a sense of helplessness in the face of Russian might. The Russian Ministry of Defense's reports on these strikes were always laced with triumphalism, highlighting the Kinzhal's precision and its ability to bypass Ukrainian air defenses. The message was always the same: resistance is futile. Then a new element was introduced to the battlefield that would fundamentally change this narrative. The United States and its allies began to provide Ukraine with the MIM-104 Patriot missile defense system. The Patriot, a cornerstone of American air defense for decades, was a formidable system, but it was not without its critics. Skeptics pointed to its age and its design, which was originally intended to counter tactical ballistic missiles and aircraft, not a Mach 10 hypersonic threat. Many believed the Kinzhal would make short work of the Patriot, rendering it as impotent as the older Soviet-era systems Ukraine had been relying on. The debate was intense, with some analysts arguing that the Patriot's success against a Kinzhal was purely theoretical. The night of May 4th, 2023 became a pivotal moment in this unfolding story. A Russian MiG-31K took off carrying its Kinzhal payload and began its flight toward Kyiv. The alarms blared across the city, a familiar sound of an air raid. The Ukrainian air defense operators in their engagement control station, ECS, were well trained, but this was a different kind of threat. Their screens showed the unmistakable signature of a high-speed ballistic missile. The target was identified, a Kinzhal. The Patriot system is a complex orchestra of technology. At its heart is the ANMPQ-53 radar, a phased array radar that sweeps the sky, searching for incoming threats. When the Kinzhal was detected, the radar locked onto its signature, tracking its speed and trajectory. This information was instantly relayed to the ECS, where operators monitored the threat in real time. The system's computers, running on updated software specifically designed to deal with modern threats, calculated an intercept course. The decision was made. A Patriot PAC-3 MSE interceptor was selected and launched. The key to the Patriot's success lay not in matching the Kinzhal's top speed, but in exploiting its weaknesses. Despite the propaganda, the Kinzhal, as an air-launched ballistic missile, follows a predictable ballistic trajectory for most of its flight. While it can perform some evasive maneuvers during its terminal phase, it is not a true hypersonic glide vehicle that can maneuver freely at hypersonic speeds. This predictability was the Achilles heel that the Patriot's sophisticated radar and targeting systems were designed to exploit. The PAC-3 MSE interceptor is a hit-to-kill weapon, meaning it does not carry an explosive warhead. Instead, it uses its own kinetic energy to physically collide with the incoming missile, destroying it on impact. This method is incredibly precise and was the perfect counter to the Kinzhal's predictable flight path. On that night, the Patriot interceptor launched, soared into the sky, and met the Kinzhal with devastating precision. The blip on the air defense screen disappeared. The unstoppable dagger had been stopped. The next morning, the truth was confirmed. Fragments of the Kinzhal missile were found scattered across Kyiv, including the distinctive nose cone. The Ukrainian Air Force proudly announced the successful intercept, and the story was later verified by US officials. The myth of the Kinzhal's invincibility had been shattered. The psychological weapon, which was designed to instill fear, had become a symbol of Ukrainian resilience and the effectiveness of Western technology. The narrative had flipped. The unstoppable weapon had been stopped. For Russia, this was a catastrophic public relations failure and a significant strategic setback. They had a choice: admit the Kinzhal's vulnerabilities or double down on their efforts. They chose the latter, but with a new strategy. On May 16, 2023, just 12 days after the first successful intercept, Russia launched a coordinated saturation attack on Kyiv. The assault was a complex volley of missiles and drones, designed not just to hit targets, but to overwhelm the Patriot system's capacity to engage multiple threats at once. This time, 6 Kinzhal missiles were launched alongside a storm of other cruise missiles and Shahed drones. The goal was to prove that even if a single Kinzhal could be shot down, a swarm of them could not. The outcome of this saturation attack was another stunning victory for Ukraine's air defenses. Despite the complexity and scale of the attack, the Patriot system, working in concert with other Ukrainian air defense assets, successfully intercepted all 6 Kinzhal missiles, along with numerous other threats. The attack, which was meant to overwhelm and degrade the Patriot, instead became its greatest moment of validation. It demonstrated not only the system's technical prowess, but also the skill and courage of the Ukrainian operators who were able to manage such a chaotic and high-stakes engagement. The unstoppable dagger, once a symbol of Russian dominance, was now little more than a high-cost weapon with a broken promise. In the months and years that followed, this pattern of Russian tactics and Ukrainian responses has continued to evolve. Russia has not given up on the Kinzhal. As recently as August 2025, Kinzhal strikes were reported in the Khmelnytsky region, targeting a Ukrainian Air Force base that was being prepared for the deployment of F-16 fighter jets. But the Kinzhal no longer stands alone. These strikes are now almost always part of a larger, coordinated assault, where a Kinzhal might be launched alongside a massive swarm of cheaper Shahed drones. The purpose of this tactic is to force Ukrainian air defenses to expend their expensive interceptors on low-cost drones, creating a window of vulnerability for the more powerful missile. It is a cynical war of attrition, where the math of cost and quantity has become as important as the technology itself. A Patriot interceptor costs millions of dollars, while a Shahed drone costs a few thousand. By forcing Ukraine to use its high-value interceptors on cheap drones, Russia hopes to eventually exhaust their supplies and open the skies to its more devastating weapons. The story of the Kinzhal and the Patriot is a story of a myth giving way to reality. The unstoppable dagger was not so much a game changer as it was a case of brilliant marketing. Its combat performance revealed its vulnerabilities, and a combination of American engineering and Ukrainian determination exposed the hype. The Patriot, once viewed with skepticism, has proven itself to be a highly effective and adaptable system, with its success on the battlefield directly informing software updates and improvements. The data from these real-world intercepts has made the Patriot smarter and deadlier, as a US official once put it. The broader implications of this story are profound. It has not only boosted the morale of the Ukrainian people, but has also strengthened the resolve of their allies. The success of the Patriot has validated Western military aid and technology, showing that these systems can be a decisive factor in the war. It has made it easier for countries like Germany to commit more Patriot systems to Ukraine, knowing that the investment is a proven one. The dagger may still be a threat, but it is no longer a symbol of Russian invincibility. Instead, it is a symbol of a strategic failure, a high-cost weapon that has been countered by a combination of superior technology and human ingenuity. The war is far from over, and the threats remain real, but the myth of the unbreakable dagger has been shattered.